At the family dinner, my son smiled and said, "Mom, we're going to transfer the $80,000 car you gave me to my mother-in-law." Claire laughed. That sharp laugh I knew so well. "Relax, it's just a car." Michael, my husband, watched them in silence. His eyes moved from Julian to Claire, then to me. And then he spoke, with that voice he hadn't used in years. That voice he saved for the moments where everything was breaking. "But before I tell you what he said, you need to understand something. You need to see how we got here. Because this was not the first time, nor the second, nor the 10th. This was the drop that overflowed a glass I had been filling for 29 years. The dining room lights were still shining when Julian said those words. I had cooked for hours. The white tablecloth perfectly ironed, the fresh flowers in the center of the table, the aroma of the pot roast filling every corner of the house Michael and I built with sweat and sacrifice. Beatrice was sitting across from me, Claire's mother. That woman who always evaluated me with cold eyes, as if I were an intruder in my own son's life. Claire was wearing the ivory-colored dress I gave her for her birthday, the same dress she was now using to humiliate me. Julian raised his glass before dropping the bomb. He smiled. That smile I had known since he was born. The one he used when he wanted something. The one he used when he knew I would give in. "Mom, we have something important to tell you." My heart beat faster. I thought of a grandchild, of good news, of something that would justify this perfect table, this effort, this night I had prepared with so much love. And then he said it. "We're going to transfer the car into Beatrice's name. She really needs it. And you understand, right? You always understand." The world stopped. That car. That damned $80,000 car that I bought with my own hands, with years of breaking my back in that office, with nights when I came home so tired I could barely breathe. I bought it when Julian got his promotion. I thought it was the moment. I thought I could finally give him something big. Something that said, "I love you, I'm proud, you made it." $80,000 is nothing to some people, but for me it was years. It was canceled vacations. It was old shoes I kept wearing. It was lunches packed in paper bags. It was extra early mornings. It was sacrifices that no one saw. And now my son, sitting at my table, eating my food, wanted to give it to his mother-in-law. "It's just that Beatrice is having problems with her old car," Julian continued, as if he were talking about the weather. "And we thought it would be nice to help her out. Besides, I can just use Claire's car when I need it." End quote. Claire nodded, touching Julian's arm with that fake tenderness she used when there was an audience. "It's the right thing to do, Eleanor. Family helps family. Family helps family." Those words echoed in my head like church bells. Family helps family. How many times had I heard that phrase? How many times had they used it against me? I looked at Michael. His eyes were fixed on his plate. His jaw was tight. I knew that expression. It was the expression of a man who wanted to say something but didn't know how. Or, worse, a man who was afraid of the consequences. "Eleanor." Beatrice's voice pulled me from my thoughts. "Are you okay? You look pale." There was no concern in her tone. There was curiosity, as if she were watching an experiment, waiting for my reaction, measuring how much I could take before I broke. "I'm fine," I lied. But I wasn't fine. Nothing was fine. And as I looked around that table, at these people who supposedly loved me, something inside me began to crack. Something that had been held back for far too long. Because this didn't start with the car. This started much earlier. When Julian was 7 years old and I bought him his first bicycle, when he was 12 and I paid for his summer camp by selling jewelry my mother had left me, when he was 18 and I financed his college education by working double shifts, I was the strong one, the one who could always handle everything, the one who never asked for anything in return. And that strength became my curse. Because when you're strong, people assume you don't hurt. They assume you can give and give and give without ever running dry. They assume your love has no limits and no conditions. Julian kept talking. "We can go tomorrow to do the paperwork. Beatrice already has all her documents ready." Of course she had them ready. This was planned. This wasn't a spontaneous idea born during dinner. They had discussed it. They had decided it. And now they were just informing me, as if my opinion were an unimportant formality. $80,000, I whispered. Julian blinked. What? It cost $80,000, I repeated, louder this time. The car you want to give away cost $80,000. Claire let out an uncomfortable laugh. Yes, but it's not like you need it back. Or, well, you already gifted it. You already gifted it. As if a gift were a permanent, irrevocable transfer of all rights, even the right to feel betrayed. Michael finally looked up. He looked at me. And in his eyes, I saw something I hadn't seen in years. I saw shame. There was a time when I believed that giving was love. That sacrificing was proof of devotion. That giving in meant keeping the peace. But peace built on your own silence isn't peace. It's a time bomb. When Julian was born, I swore he would never want for anything. Never. Michael and I lived in a tiny apartment. 2 rooms, thin walls, noisy neighbors. But it was ours. And when that baby came into our lives, the world became smaller and larger at the same time. I worked in an administrative office. Nothing glamorous. Invoices, files, bitter coffee I drank to stay awake. Michael worked in construction. He came home with rough hands and an aching back. But we were happy, or so I thought. Julian grew up as the center of the universe. My universe. I bought him his first bicycle by selling the engagement ring my grandmother had left me. Michael didn't find out until years later. When he did, he just said, "You should have told me." But how could I tell him? How could I admit that choosing between a dead ring and my son's smile wasn't really a choice? When Julian was 12, he wanted to go to a summer camp. All his friends were going. All of them except him, because we didn't have the money. I saw him cry that night in his room, a silent cry he tried to hide behind his pillow. I sold my mother's jewelry, gold earrings, an antique necklace, a pearl bracelet she wore on special occasions. I took them to a pawn shop and exchanged them for a check and a crumpled receipt. Julian went to camp. He came back tan and happy, with stories he told for weeks. He never knew the price. When he turned 18, he earned a spot at a university. A good one, expensive, far from home. Michael and I looked at each other that night in the kitchen, knowing we couldn't afford it. "We'll take out a loan," Michael said. I didn't answer. "I'll get the money." I got a second job. I cleaned offices at night after my regular shift. I would get home at 2 o'clock in the morning. I'd sleep 4 hours. I'd get up and start all over again. For 4 years, I lived like that. 4 years where my body became a machine that ran on coffee and willpower. Julian graduated with honors. At the ceremony, he hugged me and said, "Thanks, Mom. None of this would have been possible without you guys. You guys." Plural. As if Michael and I had contributed equally. But I didn't say anything. Because that's what good mothers did, right? They gave without keeping score. They loved without expecting recognition. Except I was keeping score. Somewhere deep in my soul, there was an invisible ledger where every sacrifice was recorded. Not out of resentment, but because I needed to remind myself that all of this meant something. That I meant something. Then came Claire. She appeared in Julian's life like a hurricane dressed in silk, pretty self-assured, from a family with money. Beatrice, her mother, was a businessman's widow. They had a big house, imported cars, vacations in Europe. The first time Claire came to dinner, she looked around our dining room with that polite smile rich people use when visiting the poor. A smile that says, "How cozy," but thinks, "How small." Beatrice came later. She sat on my sofa, as if it were a temporary throne. She drank the tea I made her and commented, "How interesting. It's a tea bag." As if a tea bag was a personal insult. But I swallowed my pride. Because Julian was in love. And I wanted him to be happy. Even if his happiness meant sharing him with women who saw me as something lesser. The wedding was expensive. Too expensive. Claire wanted a magazine-worthy event. 500 guests. A live orchestra. Imported flowers. A dress that cost more than my car. "It's their special day," Michael said when he saw my face upon receiving the budget. "We don't have this money," I replied. "We'll find a way." And we did. We sold the plot of land we had bought years ago, thinking we'd build a house for our retirement. That land where I imagined a small garden, a hammock under the trees, Peace after so many years of war. We sold it. And we paid for a wedding, where Beatrice paraded around like the Queen Mother, receiving congratulations for what a wonderful son Eleanor had raised, past tense, as if my job were finished. After the wedding, things changed. Julian visited less. When he did come, Claire always had an excuse not to accompany him, or they came together, but she spent the whole time on her phone, sending messages, laughing at jokes I couldn't hear. One day, Julian arrived with news. "Mom, I need to ask you a favor." The favors always started like that. Soft, reasonable. "Claire and I want to buy a condo, but we need help with the down payment. Just $10,000. We'll pay you back in 6 months. $10,000. 6 months. I gave him the money. It was part of my retirement savings. But I told myself it was an investment in his future. I'd get it back in 6 months. 6 months passed. Then 12. Then 18. I never saw that money again. When I finally gathered the courage to mention it, Julian seemed offended. "Mom, I thought it was a gift. I didn't know you were keeping score." Keeping score. As if remembering I was owed $10,000 was a character flaw. And now, years later, sitting at my own table, I listened to that same son tell me he was going to give an $80,000 car to his mother-in-law. A car I bought after years of saving, after turning down vacations, new clothes, small luxuries. I bought it because Julian got an important promotion, and I wanted to celebrate. I wanted him to know I was proud. I wanted, stupidly, for him to see me. But he didn't see me. He had never really seen me. To him, I was an inexhaustible resource, an emotional bank he could withdraw from without limit, and I had allowed him to believe that. I looked at Julian across the table. His eyes avoided mine. Claire was smiling. Beatrice was eating with the elegance of someone who had already won, and something inside me said, "Enough. When were you planning to tell me this?" My voice came out firmer than I expected. The words cut through the air like a sharp knife. Julian blinked, surprised by my tone. "We're telling you now, Mom. That's why we organized this dinner. This damned dinner that I cooked. In my house. With my food. At the table that I set." "You organized," I repeated slowly. "You organized a dinner in my house to inform me that you are giving away my gift." Claire let out an impatient sigh. "Eleanor, don't be so dramatic. We already explained it. Beatrice needs the car. You already did your part by giving it to Julian. Now he can do what he wants with it." Dramatic. That word they use to silence women who dare to feel, who dare to protest, who dare to say, "This hurts me." "The car is in my name," I said. Silence. Julian frowned. "What?" "The car is still legally in my name. We never did the official transfer." This was true. When I bought the car, my lawyer, an old family friend, suggested I wait a few months before transferring it. "Just as a precaution," he had said. "Sometimes young sons have accidents, legal problems. It's better to protect the asset until you're sure." I had agreed without thinking much about it. But now, looking at the faces around the table, I was thankful for that advice. Claire put her fork down with a sharp click. "Well, then we'll fix it tomorrow. First, you sign it over to Julian, and then he signs it over to Beatrice." No. That small word fell like a stone in still water. The ripples spread across the entire table. "What do you mean, no?" Julian leaned forward. "Mom, you gave it to me. It's mine. I loaned it to you. There's a difference." "That's not true. You said it was mine. On my birthday, you said. This is your gift, son. You deserve it." I remembered. I remembered every word. I remembered his happy face. I remembered hugging him and feeling that finally, I had done something big enough to prove my love. But I also remembered all the times he wasn't there, all the unreturned calls, all the broken promises, all the "I'll call you later, Mom," that never came. "I made a mistake," I said. Beatrice spoke for the first time in several minutes. Her voice was cold as ice. "Eleanor, this is embarrassing. You're hurting your own son over a material object. A material object. $80,000 reduced to a material object by a woman who probably spent that on a spa weekend. She's right, Mom. Julian took Claire's hand. This isn't about the car. It's about you not being able to let go. You've always been like this. Controlling, smothering, controlling, smothering. The words hit me like fists. This was my son, the child I breastfed, the child I cared for when he had a fever, the child I taught to read, the child I defended from bullies at school, the child I loved with every fiber of my being. And he was calling me smothering. Do you know what's smothering, Julian? My voice was trembling now, but not from weakness, from contained rage. Smothering is working 2 jobs to pay for your college while you complained that your allowance wasn't enough. Smothering is selling my mother's jewelry so you could go to camp. Smothering is canceling my dreams over and over to finance yours. Nobody asked you to do that, Claire said. I looked at her. I really looked at her. That ivory-colored dress, those perfectly maniciled nails, that diamond ring glittering under the lights. And I felt something I had never felt before toward her. Pure contempt. You're right, I said slowly. Nobody asked me. I did it because I'm his mother. Because that's what mothers do. They sacrifice. But apparently, that sacrifice has an expiration date. And you all decided it just expired. Michael put his hand over mine. It was a small gesture, but after so much silence, it meant everything. Eleanor, Beatrice said with that condescending voice she always used. I understand you're upset, but think about this rationally. I really need a reliable car. Mine is 15 years old. It breaks down constantly. Julian and Claire are just trying to help their family. Their family. As if I wasn't family. As if my need to be respected was less important than her need for a new car. And what about what I need? I asked. Everyone looked at me as if I had spoken in another language. What do you need? Julian repeated, genuinely confused. That confusion broke my heart more than any insult. Because it was real. He truly couldn't imagine that I had needs, that I was anything more than an endless source of resources and unconditional love. I need to be respected, I said. I need you to value what I do. I need to stop being invisible. Nobody is making you invisible, Mom. It's you who overthinks everything. Overthinks everything. Another phrase to invalidate, to make my feelings seem exaggerated. Irrational. Wrong. Claire stood up from the table. This is ridiculous. Beatrice, I'm so sorry. I didn't think this was going to get so uncomfortable. Don't apologize, Beatrice replied, also getting up. Clearly, there are problems here that go beyond the car. Yes, there were problems. Problems that had been accumulating for years like dust under a rug. And now that I was finally shaking it out, everyone was acting like I was the one to blame for the mess. Don't go, Julian said, standing up too. Mom will come to her senses. She just needs a moment. Come to her senses. As if I were the irrational one. As if setting a boundary was an act of temporary insanity. I am not going to come to my senses, I said, my voice stronger now. The car stays in my name. And if you have a problem with that, Julian, you can return it. His face turned red. You're taking back my gift. I'm taking away the illusion that you can dispose of my things without consulting me. This is unbelievable. Claire grabbed her purse. Beatrice, let's go. We don't have to stay here and listen to this. Beatrice nodded, but before she left, she looked at me with those cold eyes. How sad, Eleanor. How sad that a mother's love comes with so many conditions. Conditions. She spoke of conditions when I had given everything without requests or contracts, when I had emptied my entire life into my sons without keeping anything for myself, and now that I was asking for a crumb of respect, I was accused of being conditional. I watched them leave. Claire and Beatrice walked to the door with their heads held high, like misunderstood martyrs. Julian followed them but stopped at the threshold. He turned to me, and for a second, just 1 second, I saw the boy he used to be, the boy who hugged me when he had nightmares, the boy who said, "I love you, Mommy," before bed. But that boy didn't exist anymore. In his place was a man who looked at me with disappointment. I never thought you could be so selfish, Mom. And he left. The door slammed shut. The silence filled the house like cold water. I remained standing in the middle of the dining room. The table still full of food that no one finished eating. The candles were still lit. The smoke rose in thin spirals toward the ceiling. Everything looked perfect. Everything except me. Michael hadn't moved from his chair. His hands were clasped on the table. His head was bowed. He was breathing deeply, as if preparing to say something he had held back for years. Eleanor. His voice sounded different, not soft or conciliatory like always. It sounded tired, defeated. I sat down slowly. My legs were shaking, not from fear, from adrenaline, from something that felt dangerously like freedom. You had to do it, Michael said without looking at me. You had to stand up to him. Do you think I did the right thing? He raised his head. His eyes were glassy. I think you did what I should have done years ago. Those words hit me with unexpected force. Michael never talked like this. Michael was the peacemaker, the one who smoothed over conflicts, the one who asked me for patience when I wanted to scream. For 29 years, I watched you give yourself completely, he continued. I watched you empty yourself for that boy, and I said nothing. I thought it was love. I thought that's what being good parents meant. Giving everything, asking for nothing. He ran his hands over his face, a gesture of absolute exhaustion. But it wasn't love, Eleanor. It was misunderstood sacrifice, and I let you do it alone. I let you carry everything while I hid behind work, behind the need to keep the peace, behind cowardice. Michael, no. His voice broke. Let me finish, because if I don't say it now, I never will. I saw you sell your mother's jewelry. I saw you work 2 jobs. I saw you consume yourself slowly, and I did nothing, because it was easier to let you be the strong one. It was more comfortable to believe that you could handle everything. A tear rolled down his cheek. Michael never cried. In 35 years of marriage, I had seen him cry 3 times, when Julian was born, when his father died. And now, when Julian said that about the car, he whispered. Something inside me broke. I saw his face. That smile. That damned smile of someone who expects you to say yes because you've always said yes. And I was disgusted. Disgusted. With him. With me. With what we did. Because I'm just as guilty. Eleanor, I spoiled him just as much as you did. But while you spoiled him with love and sacrifice, I spoiled him with silence and complicity. He extended his hand across the table. I took his. It was cold, trembling slightly. When Claire laughed and said it was just a car, Michael continued. I wanted to stand up and scream at them. I wanted to tell them they had no idea what that car cost. Not in money. In years of your life. In dreams you canceled. In nights you didn't sleep. Why didn't you? Because I was waiting for you to do it. And you did. You finally did. We stayed like that, holding hands in the middle of the disaster. The food grew cold. The candles burned down. And for the first time in years, I felt like my husband truly saw me. He's going to call, I said after a while. Julian is going to call. He's going to try to make me feel guilty. I know. Our day. Claire is going to post something on social media. She's going to tell her version. They're going to make me look like the villain. Probably. And I'll be the terrible mother who took a gift back from her son. Michael squeezed my hand. Or you'll be the woman who finally respected herself. Those words hung in the air. The woman who finally respected herself. It sounded so simple, so obvious. But it had taken me 63 years to get there. My phone buzzed. I looked at it. It was a message from Julian. Don't read it now, Michael said. Give him time. Give yourself time. But my curiosity won. I opened the message. Asterisk, Mom. I know you're upset, but this is too much. Claire is crying. Beatrice is humiliated. All over a car? Is this what we are now? Please come to your senses. We'll talk tomorrow, when you're calmer. Asterisk, calmer. As if my firm stance was the product of temporary hysteria, I passed the phone to Michael. He read the message. His jaw tensed. You're going to answer. I don't know what to say. Say the truth. What truth? That it's over. that they aren't going to treat you like an infinite resource anymore, that the emotional bank is closed. I took the phone. My fingers trembled on the keyboard. I typed and deleted. Finally, I found the words. Julian, I'm not upset. I'm awake. And I'm not going to come to my senses because there is nothing to repent for. The car stays in my name. If that seems unfair to you, return it. But I will not allow you to dispose of my things without my consent. That isn't love. It's abuse disguised as family. I love you, but I am no longer going to let you disrespect me. I pressed send before I could stop myself. Michael smiled. A small but real smile. Good. Good? I just declared war on our only son. No, you just set a boundary. There's a difference. My phone buzzed again. Julian was typing. The 3 dots appeared and disappeared. Finally, his response came. I can't believe you are this selfish. After everything we've done for you. I read that line over and over, trying to find a single example. A single thing Julian had done for me that wasn't just existing, that wasn't allowing me to love him, that wasn't giving me the privilege of serving him. I found nothing. What did he do for me? I asked out loud. What the hell did he ever do for me? Michael shook his head. Nothing. And that's the tragedy. He genuinely believes his existence is contribution enough. Another message arrived, this one from Claire. Eleanor, you disappointed me. I thought you were different. But you're just like all the mothers-in-law, controlling and manipulative. Beatrice is devastated. I hope you're happy. I didn't answer. What could I say? Any defense would sound like a justification. Any explanation would be used against me. Then a message came from an unknown number. I opened it. It was Beatrice. Eleanor. I'm sorry you've chosen this path. Julian and Claire are good people who were only trying to help me. But I understand. At your age, sometimes the fear of irrelevance makes us act in irrational ways. I hope you find peace, because you clearly don't have it. At your age, fear of irrelevance, irrationality, every word designed to hurt me, to make me feel old, pathetic, wrong. I showed the message to Michael. His face turned red. That woman. Let it go, I said. It doesn't matter anymore. But it did matter. Because this was just the beginning. This wasn't the end of the battle. It was the beginning of the war. I stood up from the table. I started gathering the plates. My hands were shaking so much I almost dropped one. Michael stopped me. Leave it. We'll do it together tomorrow. I can't just leave it. Yes, you can. He led me to the living room. I sat on the sofa. The same sofa where Beatrice had sat like a queen. The same sofa where I had breastfed Julian 35 years ago. Everything in this house held memories. Ghosts of better moments. Did I do the right thing? I asked again. Michael sat next to me. He put his arm around me. You did the only thing you could do. You defended yourself. And that, my love, can never be wrong. I rested my head on his shoulder. I closed my eyes. And for the first time all night, I cried. Not from sadness, from relief. Because finally, after all these years, someone was on my side. I didn't sleep that night. I stared at the ceiling while Michael snored softly beside me. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Julian's face. That expression of disappointment. That look that said, I don't recognize you anymore. But did he ever really recognize me? Or did he only recognize what I did for him? At 3 o'clock in the morning, I picked up my phone. I had 17 notifications, messages, comments, tags on posts. Claire had kept her promise. I opened Instagram. There it was, a photo of her crying. Makeup artistically smeared, the perfect lighting capturing every tear. The caption was a masterpiece of manipulation. When your in-laws make you feel worthless, when a material object matters more than relationships, when love has a price, I'm devastated. My mom just needed help, and we offered to give something that was already ours. But apparently, Some gifts come with hidden conditions. Learn from who you don't want to be. Asterisk. It had over 200 comments. I read them. Every one was a dagger. What a toxic mother-in-law. Envious mothers-in-law are the worst. Your husband should defend you. Poor thing, you deserve a better family. There were broken heart emojis, virtual hugs, applause for Claire for being so strong. A part of me wanted to respond, wanted to tell my side, to explain that the car cost $80,000, that I bought it with sacrifice, that they never asked, only demanded. But who would care? On social media, the victim who cries first wins. The narrative that gets there first becomes the truth. I kept scrolling. Beatrice had shared Claire's post with her own comment. Asterisk. Some people never overcome their insecurities. We opened our lives to this woman, treated her like family, and this is how she repays us. But we are better than that. We will continue to love despite the hate. Asterisk love despite the hate. As if I were the villain in a soap opera. The comments on her post were worse. Your daughter-in-law is a saint for putting up with that. That lady needs therapy. How can you be so miserable? I turned off the phone. I put it face down on the nightstand. But the damage was done. The words kept circling in my head, like flies around garbage. Toxic, envious, miserable, insecure. Was I all of that? Did refusing to be trampled make me a monster? I got up. I went to the kitchen. The dining room was still as we had left it. Dirty plates, cold food, candles burned down into pools of wax. I started to clean. I needed to do something with my hands. Something productive. Something that made me feel like I had control over at least one piece of my life. I washed every dish with obsessive precision. I put away the food no one ate. I wiped the table until it shone. I swept the floor. I brushed away the crumbs. When I finished, the kitchen looked perfect, as if nothing had happened, as if my life wasn't falling apart. The sun was beginning to rise. A gray light filtered through the windows. I made coffee. The aroma filled the house. A familiar, comforting smell. Michael appeared in the kitchen doorway. His hair was messy, his eyes swollen with sleep. How long have you been up? All night. He sat across from me. He took my hand. I saw it. Saw what? The posts, the comments, everything. I shrugged, feigning indifference. It doesn't matter. Yes, it does. They're destroying your reputation. What reputation? I'm not anyone important. I'm just a 63-year-old woman who finally said no. You're my wife. You're Julian's mother. You're important to a lot of people. Like who? Name one person who is on my side in this. Michael opened his mouth. He closed it. He couldn't name anyone. Because there was no one. Claire controlled the narrative. Beatrice had the followers, and I only had the truth, which, in the world of social media, was worth less than nothing. You can respond, Michael suggested. You can tell your side. And sound like a bitter old woman defending herself? No. I already made my decision. Let them think what they want. But it was a lie. It did matter to me. It mattered so much my chest felt tight. It mattered so much I had spent the whole night sleepless. It mattered so much I wanted to scream. My phone rang. It was my sister, Sarah. Hello, Eleanor. What the hell happened? Her voice was urgent, worried. You saw the posts. Everyone saw them. Claire shared them everywhere. I even saw them in Mom's groups I didn't even know she was in. Is it true? Did you take the car back from Julian? I didn't take anything back. The car was always in my name. But you had given it to him, right? Yes, but... So, technically, you did take it back. Those words hit me. My own sister. My own blood. Sarah. They wanted to give it to Beatrice without even asking me. I know. I read that. And I understand you were upset. But Eleanor, was it worth it? Was it worth creating this scandal over a car? It's not about the car. Then what is it about? About respect. About dignity. About not being invisible anymore. Silence on the other end. A silence that said more than 1,000 words. Look. Sarah sighed finally. I'm just saying maybe you could have handled this differently, more privately. Now the whole family is talking. Mom would be horrified. Mom. She invoked our dead mother to make me feel guilty. Mom taught me to give everything for my children, I said slowly. But she forgot to teach me when to stop. You're being too dramatic. You always have been. Dramatic again. That cursed word. I have to go, I said. Eleanor, wait. Just think about it. Call Julian. Apologize. Fix this before it's too late. Apologize for what? For having boundaries. For hurting your son. For creating unnecessary drama. For being stubborn. I hung up. I couldn't listen anymore. My own sister had turned her back on me without even hearing my full story. Michael looked at me with concern. What did she say? That I should apologize, that I'm dramatic, that Mom would be horrified. Your sister was always like that, always choosing the easy path. Maybe she's right. Maybe I'm the one who's wrong. No, his voice was firm. Final. You are not doing this. You are not going to let them convince you that defending your dignity is a mistake. But the doubts were already sown. Because when everyone tells you that you're wrong, you eventually start to believe it. My phone kept ringing all day. Calls I didn't answer. Messages I didn't read. Notifications I ignored. At 2 o'clock in the afternoon, someone knocked on the door. Michael went to open it. I heard voices. One of them was familiar. Julian. My heart sped up. I wasn't ready for this. Not yet. He walked into the living room. He looked tired, dark circles under his eyes, as if he hadn't slept either. Mom. Julian. We looked at each other. There was so much distance between us. A few physical feet. Emotional years. We need to talk. Are we going to talk, or are you here to demand? He frowned. I'm here to understand. I'm here to see if there's anything left of the mother I knew. The mother you knew died last night at that dinner. Someone new was born. Someone who won't be used anymore. Used? You think I used you? Yes, for years. And I let you because I thought that was love. He sat down without asking. Michael stood next to me, a silent but solid presence. Mom, do you have any idea the damage you caused last night? Claire won't stop crying. Beatrice is humiliated, and I'm in the middle trying to keep the peace. And what about me? Who cares about the damage you all caused me? We didn't do anything to you. We just asked you for a favor you could do without any problem. You didn't ask me. You informed me. There's a difference. Because we knew you'd say yes. You always say yes. Exactly, and that's why you feel entitled. Because you never learned to accept no. Julian ran his hands through his hair, a gesture of frustration he'd had since he was a boy. You don't understand. Beatrice really needs that car. Hers is about to die. And we thought it would be nice to help her, that it would be a beautiful gesture. With my money? With my sacrifice? Without asking me. It was my car already. No, it was a gift that could be revoked if you didn't respect its meaning. What meaning? That I had to be eternally grateful to you? That I could never do anything with it without your permission? That you wouldn't give it away to someone else as if it were worthless, as if I were worthless. This has nothing to do with your worth. It has to do with your control. I stood up. I couldn't stay seated any longer. You know what, Julian? You're right. This is about control, but not about my need to control. It's about my decision to no longer be controlled. I am done letting you dictate my decisions. Dispose of my things. Treat me like an infinite resource. Nobody treats you like that. No. When was the last time you asked me how I was without needing something? Silence. When was the last time you visited me just because you wanted to see me? More silence. When was the last time you thanked me for something without it being a formality? He didn't answer, because there was no answer. That's what I thought, I said softly. He stood up. His eyes were shining. I couldn't tell if it was from tears or rage. You're impossible. Claire was right. You're toxic. And I was a fool for not seeing it sooner. Those words should have destroyed me. They should have made me kneel and beg for forgiveness. But they didn't, because for the first time in my life, I realized something fundamental. I couldn't control what he thought of me. I could only control how much I let it hurt me. If that's what you believe, I said in a calm voice, then maybe it's best if you leave. You're kicking me out. I'm letting you go. There's a difference. We looked at each other one last time, searching for something. Recognition, remorse, love. We found nothing. He left without saying goodbye. The door slammed shut with a thud that echoed through the house. Michael hugged me, and I allowed myself, finally, to fall completely apart. The following days were a silent hell. Julian didn't call. Neither did I. We became strangers bound by blood, but separated by pride and pain. Claire's posts kept coming, each one more dramatic than the last. Photos of her and Julian hugging, with captions about true family and overcoming toxicity. Beatrice shared every one with comments about forgiving those who don't know how to love. My phone became a weapon. Every notification was a bullet. Every comment was a wound. I stopped opening it. Michael suggested I delete my social media for a while. Just until this calms down, he said, as if it would calm down, as if the internet ever forgot. But he was right. I uninstalled everything. Instagram, Facebook, WhatsApp, anything that connected me to the world that had judged me without knowing my story. The silence was strange at first, terrifying. For years, I had depended on those apps to feel connected, to see pictures of Julian, to know about his life even if he didn't tell me directly. Now there was nothing, just the void. And in that void, for the first time in decades, I heard my own voice. A week after the dinner, Michael came home with a paper in his hand. He had a serious expression. What is that? A summons. Julian hired a lawyer. The world stopped. What? He's suing. He says the car was legally his because it was a gift. He wants a judge to order the transfer. I took the paper with trembling hands. I read the legal words. Plaintiff, defendant, disputed property, irrevocable gift. My son was suing me. He can't do this, I whispered. Apparently, he can. I sat down. My legs wouldn't support me anymore. How did we get here? How did we get to lawyers and courts and legal documents? Because you stopped giving in. And he doesn't know how to deal with that. I reread the document. There was a hearing date. 3 weeks. I would have to stand in front of a judge and explain why I didn't want to give an $80,000 car to my own son. We need a lawyer, Michael said. We don't have money for lawyers. Then we'll sell something. But you are not facing this alone. We called Gregory, the lawyer who had advised me to keep the car in my name. A 70-year-old man with more experience than patience. He came to the house the next day. He read the lawsuit. He let out a dry laugh. This is going nowhere. The car is in your name. There is no signed gift agreement. Technically, it's still yours. Then why is he suing us? Because he's angry. Because he wants to scare you. Because he thinks you'll cave if he pressures you enough. I'm not going to cave. Gregory looked at me over his glasses. Are you sure? Because this is going to get ugly. He's going to bring witnesses. He's going to tell a story where you are the villain. He's going to make it look like you promised him the car and are now retracting out of malice. Let him. It's going to hurt you. He's going to say things in that courtroom you won't be able to forget. He already hurt me. He already said things I can't forget. What else can he do? Gregory nodded slowly. All right. Then we fight. The news of the lawsuit leaked quickly. I don't know how. Maybe Julian shared it. Maybe Claire posted it. Maybe the universe just decided my humiliation needed to be public. Sarah called again. Is it true? Julian is suing you. Yes. My God, Eleanor, do you see what you caused? What I caused. He's the one who hired the lawyer. Why wouldn't you be reasonable? Being reasonable meant letting myself be trampled. It meant being his mother. It meant putting his happiness before your pride. My pride. As if defending my rights was vanity. It's a damned car, Eleanor. An object. Is it worth destroying your relationship with your only son over an object? It's not the object. It's the principle. Principles aren't going to hug you when you're old and alone. Those words stuck in like needles. Old and alone. The greatest fear of any mother. I'd rather be alone with dignity than accompanied while being a doormat. Then enjoy your dignity, Sarah said coldly. Because when this is all over, you won't have anything else left." She hung up. One by one, the people in my life chose sides. And one by one, they chose Julian's. Cousins I hadn't seen in years weighed in on family group chats. Eleanor was always complicated. Distant aunts who never called suddenly had advice. Children are more important than pride. Friends of decades silently disappeared from my life. It was easier to believe I was crazy, that I was the problem. Because the alternative was to admit that they too had gone through the same thing. That they too had been used and discarded by their families. And admitting that hurt too much, Michael became my anchor. The only one who reminded me why I was doing this. "You're not crazy," he told me every night. "You're sane for the first time in years." But there were moments, in the darkness of 3 o'clock in the morning, where I doubted, where I thought that maybe everyone was right. That maybe I was the monster of this story. 2 weeks before the hearing, I received a call from an unknown number. "Hello, Mrs. Eleanor. My name is Maya. I'm a reporter with the local news. I'd like to talk to you about your case." My stomach sank. "My case? Your son's lawsuit. We're doing a story on family conflicts and social media. Your story is very resonant." "I have nothing to say. I understand it's difficult. But your son has already given his version. And the public version is very different from what I understand really happened. Don't you want to defend your name?" "My name doesn't need defending. It just needs peace. Mrs. Eleanor, with all due respect, your name is already being destroyed. Claire has given interviews. Beatrice has spoken to blogs. You are the villain in this story, and you aren't even telling your side. Because my side doesn't matter to anyone. It matters to me, and it will matter to many women who are going through the same thing. Women who give everything and never receive anything. Women who are punished for finally saying enough." Her words touched something deep inside me, because she was right. This wasn't just about me. It was about every mother who had emptied herself for her children. Every wife who had given in until she disappeared. Every woman who had confused love with self-destruction. "Let me think about it," I said. "I have until tomorrow. After that, the story runs with or without you. And believe me, it's better if your voice is included." That night I spoke with Michael, with Gregory, with the only friend I had left, a woman named Claire, ironically, who had worked with me for 20 years and never judged me. "Do it," Michael said. "Tell your story. It'll make things worse with Julian. Things can't get worse. He's already suing you. He already called you toxic. He already made you the enemy. What more can you lose?" He was right. I had already lost everything that mattered. My son, my family, my reputation. What else was left? Only my truth. And maybe it was time for someone to hear it. I called Maya the next day. "I'll talk, but with conditions. No sensationalist editing. No turning me into a weeping victim. Just the facts. Just the truth." Deal. The interview was at my house. Maya arrived with a cameraman and a lot of questions. I sat in my own living room, under my own lights, and for the first time in weeks, I allowed myself to be vulnerable in front of a camera. "Why did you decide not to transfer the car?" she asked. "Because they didn't ask me. They demanded it. Because they assumed my love meant unlimited access to my resources. Because for 29 years, I said yes to everything, and I finally realized I was disappearing. Don't you think a gift is a gift? That once given, you no longer have control over it? A gift given with love and received with gratitude is irrevocable. A gift given with sacrifice and treated like trash that can be redistributed without consultation is something else. It's a transaction. And I no longer participate in transactions where my value is zero. Your son is suing you. How does that feel?" I took a deep breath. Tears threatened to fall, but I held them back. Devastated, betrayed, but also liberated, because I finally know where I stand, and I'd rather stand alone with dignity than kneel, accompanied by people who don't respect me. The interview lasted an hour. When it was over, I felt empty, exhausted, but also light. I had spoken my truth. Now the world would decide what to do with it. The report aired 3 days later, and the world exploded. The report went viral in less than 24 hours. Millions of views, thousands of comments, Hundreds of secondary articles analyzing every word I said. But this time, something was different. This time, people heard me. The comments were no longer all against me. Now, there were voices defending me. Women telling their own stories. Mothers who had also been used. Daughters who watched their mothers slowly disappear. I am Eleanor. I was drained for years, and when I said enough, they called me selfish. My son did the exact same thing. He took everything, and when I set limits, he stopped speaking to me. Mothers are not emotional banks. We are people with needs and limits. How brave. I wish my mom had done this before she died, tired and forgotten. But there was also hate. Lots of hate. Asterisk. She's still a bad mother. You don't take back gifts. Her son is right to sue her. Asterisk. What a bitter woman. She doesn't deserve a family. Claire responded to the report with a furious post. A photo of her and Julian hugging Beatrice. The caption dripped pure venom. Asterisk. When someone seeks attention by manipulating the truth. When an edited interview becomes false validation. I'm not going to get into details, because we do have class. But know there are two sides to every story. And the side you aren't seeing is that of a woman who used her son her whole life to feel important. And now that he has his own life, she can't stand it. Narcissism disguised as boundaries. Abuse disguised as dignity. But the truth always comes out. See you in court, asterisk. Her followers applauded her. Thousands of hearts, hundreds of comments supporting her. Claire's army was powerful and in war mode. Beatrice gave her own interview to another channel. She presented herself as the collateral victim. The poor widow who just needed a car and was now in the middle of a family drama. I never asked for anything, she said with perfectly calculated tears. Julian and Claire offered to help me because I'm family, but Eleanor took it as a personal attack. I don't understand why so much hate. I just wanted transportation to go to the doctor. I have heart problems, you know, but apparently my health matters less than her ego. The program's editing was brutal. They showed photos of Beatrice in a wheelchair. They never mentioned that photo was from 5 years ago when she sprained her ankle. They painted her as a sick old woman being attacked by a cruel mother-in-law. The comments on that video were devastating. Poor lady. She just needs a car. And the mother-in-law refuses. Eleanor is a monster. How can she deny help to a sick woman? I hope the judge takes the car and gives it to this woman who really needs it. Gregory called me after seeing both interviews. This has gotten media heavy. The hearing is going to be a circus. Is that bad? It depends. It could work in your favor if the judge sees beyond the drama. Or it could destroy you if she focuses on the image of a mother refusing to help a sick widow. But Beatrice isn't sick. She has 2 cars. An old one she doesn't want to fix, and a new one her other daughter uses. I know. And we're going to prove that. But you need to prepare. This isn't going to be a normal legal hearing. It's going to be a public trial. He was right. The days before the hearing were a hell of speculation. Radio shows discussing the case. Podcasts analyzing every angle. TikTokers making reaction videos to the interviews. I became a meme, a caricature, the evil mother-in-law, the controlling mother, the symbol of everything wrong with the older generations. But I also became something else, a mirror, the representation of thousands of women who had been silenced for decades. I started receiving private messages, hundreds of them. Women telling me their stories, some worse than mine. Mothers who had sold their houses to pay their children's debts. Grandmothers raising grandchildren without pay or recognition. Wives who had disappeared in marriages where only they gave. Asterisk. Thank you for speaking. Thank you for teaching us we can say no. Asterisk. I've been giving in for 40 years. Your story gave me the courage to stop. My son treated me the same way. Seeing I'm not alone saved my life. Those messages kept me sane. They reminded me why I was doing this. It wasn't just for the car. It was for all of us. For every woman who had confused love with self-destruction. The night before the hearing, I couldn't sleep. I stayed in the kitchen, drinking tea. Michael came down at 4 o'clock in the morning and found me looking out the window. Ready? No, but I'm going to do it anyway. That's my wife. He hugged me. And in that hug, I found something I didn't know I needed. I found proof that someone saw me. Someone valued me. Someone was on my side even when the whole world was judging me. Whatever happens tomorrow, Michael whispered, you already won. How? Because you got your voice back. Because you stopped disappearing. Because you taught our son that people have limits. Even mothers. He was right. Regardless of the verdict, something fundamental had changed. I had changed. I was no longer the woman who gave in to keep the peace. I was the woman who chose true peace, even if it cost fake relationships. We arrived at the courthouse at 9 o'clock in the morning. There were reporters outside, cameras, people shouting questions, some with signs supporting me, others with signs condemning me. Eleanor, you're an inspiration. Give the car back to your son. Toxic mothers don't deserve children. Thanks for teaching us to set limits. It was surreal. My private life turned into a public spectacle. My pain transformed into entertainment. We entered the courtroom. Julian was already there, sitting next to Claire and Beatrice. All three dressed impeccably. All three with expressions of noble victims. Julian looked at me. I looked at him. There was no love in his eyes, only resentment. Only the cold determination of someone willing to destroy in order to win. When did he become this? When did my baby transform into this stranger who hated me? The judge entered. We all stood. She was a woman in her 50s, a serious face. Eyes that had seen too many cases like this. Case number 7832, the clerk announced. Julian Michaels versus Eleanor Michaels. Dispute over gifted property. Julian's lawyer spoke first. A young man in an expensive suit and a shark smile. Your Honor, this is a simple case. My client received a gift from his mother. A vehicle valued at $80,000. There are witnesses, there are photos, there is clear evidence that the intent was a permanent gift. However, when my client decided to exercise his right of ownership and donate the vehicle to a member of his political family who urgently needs it, his mother arbitrarily revoked the gift. This constitutes an act of bad faith and emotional manipulation. He pulled out photos. Photos from the day I gave Julian the keys. His happy face, my proud face, the car shining in the Sunday. As you can see, this was a celebration, a clear gift. Not a loan, not a temporary possession, a gift. And gifts, Your Honor, cannot be revoked on a whim. Then he called his first witness, Claire. She stood elegantly. She walked to the stand as if it were a runway. She swore to tell the truth in a trembling voice. Tell us what happened the night of the dinner, the lawyer said. Claire took a deep breath. Tears were already forming. A perfect performance. We organized a dinner to celebrate that we could finally help my mom. She has been struggling financially since my dad died. Her old car breaks down every week. She can't get to the doctor. She can't run her errands. Julian and I wanted to do something good. Something generous. We thought Eleanor would be proud. A dramatic pause. A stifled sob. But when Julian announced our plan, she exploded. She screamed at us. She accused us of stealing from her. She said horrible things about my mom. She turned a family dinner into a nightmare. And then, when Julian reminded her that the car was legally his, she threatened to take it away. She explicitly threatened him? Yes. She said the car was still in her name and she could do whatever she wanted with it. She said giving it to him had been a mistake. That Julian didn't deserve it. Lies. Lies mixed with truths. The perfect recipe for manipulation. How did this make you feel, Mrs. Michaels? Devastated. Humiliated. My husband just wanted to help my mom, and his own mother punished him for being generous. What kind of mother does that? She wiped her tears with a tissue. The judge watched her without expression. No further questions, the lawyer said with satisfaction. Gregory stood up. It was my turn for cross-examination. Mrs. Michaels, is it true that your mother has another vehicle? Claire blinked. Yes, but my sister uses that one. And is it true that vehicle is a model from last year? I don't see what that has to do with anything. Please answer the question. Yes, it's from last year. So your mother has access to a new car, but she prefers the $80,000 one my client gave her son. Objection, shouted the other lawyer. Speculation. Sustained, said the judge. But the point was made. The seed of doubt was planted, Gregory continued. Mrs. Michaels, how many times did you visit Eleanor in the last year? Claire frowned. I don't keep count. More than 10 times? Maybe. More than 5? An uncomfortable silence. More than 3 times, Mrs. Michaels? I don't know. We're busy. We have lives. I understand. But you had time to plan this dinner specifically to inform her that you were going to give away her property without consulting her. It wasn't her property. It was Julian's. The title of ownership says otherwise. Did you see it before making your plans? We didn't need to see it. Eleanor gave it to him. Do you have any signed document that proves that? We don't need documents in a family. Ah, interesting. You don't need documents to take, but you do need legal documents to claim when you aren't given. Doesn't that seem contradictory? Objection. Argumentative. Sustained. Counselor. Get to the point. Gregory nodded. Just one more question. Mrs. Michaels, you posted on social media about this incident. Yes, I have a right to express myself. And you received donations after those posts. Claire's face went pale. Some people offered to help. How many people? I don't know exactly. You started a fundraising account, a GoFundMe. The silence was deafening. Mrs. Michaels, I remind you that you are under oath. Yes, she finally admitted. I started an account, but it was for my mom, to help her buy a car. ID. How much did you raise? $3,000. Murmurs in the room. The judge banged her gavel. So, while you were suing for an $80,000 car, you were simultaneously raising funds by presenting yourselves as victims without resources. It's not like that. No further questions. Claire walked down from the stand, furious. She looked at me with pure hatred, but also with fear, because her story was beginning to crumble. Then they called Beatrice. She walked slowly to the stand, limping slightly, a perfect performance of a frail old woman. Julian's lawyer treated her with exaggerated gentleness. Mrs. Beatrice, can you describe your current situation? I'm a widow. I live on a small pension. My health isn't good. I have heart problems, arthritis, high blood pressure. I need to go to the doctor constantly, but my old car isn't reliable. It breaks down. It leaves me stranded. I'm scared every time I start it. And what did you feel when your son-in-law offered to help you? Gratitude. Relief. I could finally go to the doctor without fear. I would finally have a safe car. But then Eleanor ruined everything. Ruined how? She refused. She said the car was hers. She treated us like we were thieves. She humiliated me in front of my family. The tears fell, the tissue appeared, the full performance. I don't understand how a mother can be so cruel. I would never do that to my children. End of Ray. Gregory waited for his turn. When it came, his first question was direct. Mrs. Beatrice, are you a homeowner? Yes, my house. Valued at how much? I don't know, maybe $300,000. And do you have savings? Some. Approximately how much? I don't see how that's relevant. Answer the question, ma'am. About $50,000. More murmurs. The poor widow had $50,000 in the bank. And your other car? The one your daughter uses. It's hers. I gave it to her. When? A year ago. So you can give cars to your children, but Eleanor can't keep hers. That's different. Different how? Because your gift wasn't questioned, but hers was. Beatrice didn't answer. She just looked at me with hatred. Mrs. Beatrice, did you ever thank Eleanor for anything? What? In all the years your daughter has been married to Julian, did you ever thank Eleanor for raising the man your daughter loves? I don't need to thank her for doing her job as a mother. Interesting. So raising a son is just doing a job. It doesn't deserve gratitude. But asking that mother to give up her property without consultation deserves immediate obedience. Objection. Withdrawn. No further questions. Beatrice came down from the stand, trembling, but not from weakness, from rage. Finally, they called Julian. My son. My only son. He walked to the stand without looking at me. Julian, his lawyer began gently. Tell the judge about your relationship with your mother. It was good. Or so I thought. She was always generous. She always supported us. But over time, I realized that every gift came with invisible strings. What kind of strings? Control, absolute loyalty, eternal gratitude. I couldn't make decisions without consulting her. I couldn't do anything without her approval. And if I dared to have my own life, she punished me. How did she punish you? By taking back her gifts. Like with the car, she gave it to me for my birthday. She cried with emotion. She said she was proud, that I deserved it. But it was really a chain, a way to keep me tied. The tears in his eyes looked real. Maybe they were. Maybe he really believed his own version. What happened the night of the dinner? We wanted to do something good. Help Beatrice. We thought Mom would be happy, that we were using the car for something generous. But she exploded. She yelled at us. She said horrible things. She acted like we had robbed her. Had you? No. It was my car. She gave it to me. I have photos, witnesses, everything. But when I tried to exercise my right as the owner, she threatened me. She said she had never transferred it legally, that it was a trap, that she controlled everything. How did that make you feel? Betrayed, manipulated. I realized that 35 years of motherly love were actually 35 years of control. And when I finally wanted to be free, she punished me. Gregory stood up for the cross-examination. He looked at me. I nodded. It was time for the truth. Julian, when was the last time you called your mother without needing something? Julian blinked. I don't keep track of that. Try. This year. Probably. This month. Silence. In the last 6 months. Like I said, I don't keep track. Because there's nothing to track, is there? You only call when you need something. That's not true, isn't it? When was the last time you visited your parents just because you wanted to see them? I'm busy. I have a life. Exactly. You have a life. A life your mother financed by selling her jewelry, working 2 jobs, sacrificing her dreams. Or did you not know that? She chose to do that. Did she choose? Or did she do it because you emotionally manipulated her every time you wanted something? I never manipulated her. Gregory pulled out a paper. I have messages from you here. Mom, can you lend me $10,000? I need it urgently. If you can't, I understand. I just thought I could count on you. That's not manipulation? I told her I'd pay her back. That was 3 years ago. Did you pay that money back? Julian didn't answer. Julian, did you pay back the $10,000? I couldn't. Expenses came up. Like your honeymoon in Europe. That's different. Or like the $15,000 engagement ring you bought for Claire 2 months after borrowing money from your mother. The courtroom erupted in murmurs. The judge banged her gavel. Is that true, Julian? Yes, but... So you owe your mother money, you never paid it back, and now you're suing her to take more, correct? It's not taking. The car is mine. The title says it's hers. And you know what's interesting, Julian? In all these years of supposed maternal generosity, you never insisted on making the legal transfer. Why? Because I trusted her. Or because as long as it was in her name, you could keep asking her to pay the insurance, the maintenance, the repairs. Julian's face turned red. In fact, Gregory continued, pulling out more papers. Here are the receipts. Your mother paid $42,000 in maintenance on that car in 2 years. A car that supposedly wasn't hers anymore. She never complained. Because mothers don't complain. They just give. Until they're empty. And do you know what happens then, Julian? Their sons sue them for daring to say enough. Objection. Argumentative. Withdrawn. Gregory looked at me. I nodded slightly. No further questions. Julian walked down from the stand. He looked destroyed, but not remorseful, just furious that his narrative had collapsed. Finally, it was my turn. I walked to the stand with trembling legs. I swore to tell the truth, and I was ready to do it. Gregory smiled at me warmly. Eleanor, tell us why you bought that car. I took a deep breath. Because I wanted my son to know I was proud. Because I worked my whole life to give him what I never had. Because I thought a big gift would finally make me visible to him. And it worked. For one day, Then I became invisible again, except when he needed something. The tears began to fall. I didn't stop them. Why didn't you transfer the title? My lawyer advised me to wait, for legal protection, and now I'm thankful for that advice, because it gave me the chance to defend myself when they tried to dispose of my property without consulting me. Do you regret giving him the car? I regret confusing generosity with love. I regret teaching my son that he could take without giving. I regret emptying myself so much that there was nothing left of me. I looked directly at Julian. But I don't regret defending myself, because I finally learned that love doesn't hurt. Abuse does. Julian's lawyer tried to destroy me in his cross-examination. He asked about every gift, every sacrifice, trying to paint me as someone who obsessively kept score. So you do remember every dollar you spent on your son. I remember every sacrifice, not out of resentment, but because they were pieces of my life that I will never get back. Don't you think that's sick? I think it's sick to expect a mother to empty herself without limits and then punish her when she finally says enough. He couldn't break me because I wasn't afraid anymore. I had already lost what I most feared losing. There was nothing left they could take from me except my dignity, and that, finally, I had decided to keep. The judge deliberated for 30 minutes. 30 minutes where the silence in the room was so thick you could cut it. Julian didn't look at me once. Claire was typing furiously on her phone. Beatrice was muttering prayers. Michael took my hand. He squeezed it hard. Finally, the judge returned. I have reviewed all the evidence, the testimonies, the documents, and the law is clear. The title of ownership is in the name of Mrs. Eleanor Michaels. There is no signed gift agreement. There is no legal transfer. Therefore, the vehicle remains legally hers. Julian stood up. But she gave it to me. Sit down, Mr. Michaels. The judge's voice was firm. A gift expressed verbally without legal documentation does not constitute a transfer of ownership, especially when the donor maintained the title, paid for insurance, maintenance, and never formally renounced her rights. This is unfair. What is unfair, the judge continued, with a tone that silenced the entire room, is to sue your own mother for refusing to be stripped of her property without consent. I find for the defendant. The vehicle remains the property of Eleanor Michaels. Case closed. The gavel fell. For a moment, I couldn't process what had happened. I had won. Legally, publicly. I had defended my dignity, and the system had agreed with me. Julian was paralyzed. Claire was crying. Beatrice was cursing us under her breath. But I just felt a strange emptiness. Because I had won the battle, but lost my son. We left the courthouse to flashes and shouts. Questions bombarded me from all sides. Eleanor, how do you feel? Do you have anything to say to your son? Was this about revenge or justice? I didn't answer. I just walked to the car with Michael by my side. The very car that had caused all of this. The car that now represented my freedom. That night, social media exploded again. But this time the tone was different. Justice for Eleanor. Mothers have rights too. How brave. She taught her son boundaries even though it cost her the relationship. All mothers should see this. Love doesn't mean disappearing. But there was also hate. There always would be. She won legally, but lost morally. How sad to beat your own son in court. Her pride left her all alone. I hope it was worth it. Julian didn't call. He didn't write. He disappeared from my life as if he had never existed. Claire closed her GoFundMe account and deleted all her posts about me. Beatrice blocked me from everywhere. And my family, the family that judged me without hearing me, remained silent. It was just Michael and me. And strangely, it was enough. The months passed. The media scandal faded. Other stories took the headlines. Other destroyed families became entertainment. And I learned to live with the emptiness of not having a son. But something had changed. I started therapy. I learned about family narcissism, about mothers who get lost in motherhood, about the difference between love and codependency. I learned that I wasn't crazy, that my pain was valid, that defending my limits didn't make me a monster. I met other women like me, mothers who had lost children for daring to say no, wives who had lost families for choosing themselves, women who were rebuilding themselves from the ashes of toxic relationships. And in that shared pain, I found healing. A year after the dinner, I was driving that car toward the coast, alone. The windows down, the wind in my hair, the sea shining on the horizon. I parked facing the beach. I got out. I walked on the sand. And for the first time in 64 years, I felt completely free. Not free from pain. The pain was still there. It probably always would be. But it was a clean pain. Not the rotten pain of being used and discarded, but the honest pain of having chosen my dignity over the comfort of false relationships. My phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. Asterisk. This is Maya, the reporter. I wanted you to know your story inspired a movement. Hundreds of women are sharing their experiences. They are setting limits. They are choosing themselves. Thank you for your courage. Asterisk. I smiled. Maybe all this pain had served a purpose. Maybe my story was bigger than me. Maybe I had broken a cycle that would be repeated in other families. I replied. Thank you for giving me a voice when everyone wanted to silence me. I sat on the sand. I watched the ocean. The waves came and went, constant, eternal, indifferent to human drama. And I understood something fundamental. Peace doesn't need applause. It just needs space. Space to breathe. Space to exist. Space to be. Breaking cycles isn't dramatic. It's deliberate. It's painful. It's necessary. And every time I start that car, every time I drive without asking permission, every time I make decisions without feeling guilt, I remember that I am free. Not free from my past, but free for my future. Michael appeared, walking down the beach. He sat next to me. He didn't say anything. He just took my hand. And in that silence, I found everything I had been searching for my whole life. Acceptance. Respect. Real love. The kind of love that doesn't hurt. That doesn't demand. That doesn't disappear. The kind of love that taught me I am worth more than my sacrifices. That I am more than what I can give. That I deserve to take up space without apologizing. The sun began to set. Orange and pink brushstrokes in the sky. A perfect end to an ordinary day. But I didn't need perfect days anymore. I just needed honest days. Days where I could be myself without masks or performance. What are you thinking? Michael asked. That I lost a son, but I found myself. It was worth it. I looked at the ocean, the endless waves, the vastness. Yes, I whispered. It was worth it. Because in the end, the greatest betrayal wasn't Julian's. It was my own. For years, I betrayed myself by choosing false peace over my truth, choosing approval over my dignity, choosing to disappear so that others could shine. But not anymore. Now I choose differently. I choose boundaries. I choose honesty. I choose to live. And if that costs me relationships, so be it. Because relationships that require your disappearance are not relationships. They are prisons disguised as love. I stood up. I brushed the sand off my clothes. I looked at Michael. Let's go home. Ready. Always. We walked toward the car. That $80,000 car that became a symbol of my liberation. I started it. The engine purred softly. And as I drove back, with the sunset painting the coastal highway gold, I knew with absolute certainty that I had made the right decision. Not the easy decision. Not the popular decision. But the decision that allowed me to look at myself in the mirror without shame. The decision that gave me back to myself. And that, in the end, was worth more than any relationship built on my silence. The scars would remain. The pain would visit on lonely nights. The question, what if I had given in, would haunt me occasionally. But this would also remain. The certainty that finally, after 64 years, I learned the most important lesson, that respect begins at home, and I am that home. That boundaries are not walls, they are doors, and I decide who enters. That forgiveness is liberation, but it doesn't require reconciliation with those who hurt you. That you can love someone from a distance and still choose yourself. That breaking toxic patterns is the greatest act of love. Not toward them, toward you. And that true peace doesn't need external validation. It just needs your own approval. Night fell. The stars began to shine. And I, Eleanor, finally at peace with myself, drove home. To my space. My truth. My life. A life where I no longer disappear so that others can exist. A life where I finally, gloriously, take up my own space. And that is enough. That was always enough.